customer will not buy from you if they don't trust your site. So let's talk about how to get customers to trust your site, how to do the right things so they do trust your site. I'm Daniel Burstein, the Director of Editorial Content at MarketingSherpa. We're here at the MarketingSherpa Media Center at IRCE, and joining me now is Craig Spiezle, Executive Director and President of the Online Trust Alliance. Thanks for joining us, Craig.
Good morning, and thanks for having us today.
So we were talking about the Online Trust Audit and Honor Roll, the 2014 version. You have just released this. Tell us a little bit about this report, what you did with this report.
Well, the Honor Roll is a holistic view of a site's practices or a business's practices focusing on security, privacy, and consumer protection.
Okay, so let's talk about why customers should care about that. So the data you're seeing on the screen right now is from the MarketingSherpa e-commerce benchmark study. And in that benchmark study, our PhD, Diana Sandisha, she looked at all of the information we got from more than 4,000 e-commerce companies. She created a success score based on that. And then we looked at some factors like ease of use, security, customer service, reputation, how frequently companies evaluated these and compared it to their success score. And as you'll see, there's a great correlation all along the board. The more frequently companies evaluate these factors, the more successful they are, and with daily frequency being most successful. So let's talk about the frequency of evaluation. You said, really, this points to the processes companies are using, right?
Well, absolutely. As I mentioned, the Honor Roll, it's a holistic algorithm of over almost 50 data points across those three sectors: security, privacy, brand, and consumer protection. And one of the things that we find, those companies that have an operational discipline that recognize the security and privacy, these aren't just a one-time deal, it's a continued road process. Those that continually reevaluate those and enhance are the ones that have the higher trust index. So it would very much complement your data here. Again, and really what it says is, you need to be rethinking what you're doing on your site on a daily basis, what changes you're making, how are you optimizing it, and in that process sometimes you make one change, that may create a problem somewhere else. So again, it's one of the issues that it's more of an operational discipline than a technical issue.
Okay, let's talk about these different elements and how they fit into that operational discipline. So ease of use, as you mentioned, from a customer perspective, if they don't understand, let's say, your privacy policy, right? If they can't easily find it, then they might not trust your site. Are there some other factors we should look at there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, shopping cart abandonment is a key issue for any commerce site. And ease of use can be interpreted by consumers a lot of different ways. Is the information discoverable? How much do they have to hunt for it? In the area of privacy policies, in terms of use, how discoverable, but how understandable is it? Is it so convoluted that you need a PhD and a Mensa intelligence to be able to read this stuff? And so really the companies that are making what we call layered policies, very short staccato statements, and then you could drill down to more information, it's a good step. It was years ago, there were some companies that, leading dominant players that refused to have the privacy policy on their homepage. And now companies recognize you need to be more open, more transparent. And that correlates to, I think, ease of use and clearly a higher level of confidence when dealing with the site.
And it sounds like what you're talking about too is not just meeting regulations, right? So for regulations, maybe there's some legalese on the page that would keep you from getting sued or whatever, but actually communicate in a way that customers will understand and care.
Well, actually, we joke that privacy policies were written by attorneys for attorneys, and you need 3 attorneys to able to figure it out. So it's a great job enhancement thing for the legal profession. It does nothing for consumers. And so that's what we need to be thinking through. I mean, the same thing on your return privileges. I mean, the sites to say, absolutely, no questions asked, or this is the terms. Consumers want that clear information. And I think that's where we need to go as we look at everything we're doing, communicating. The consumers want the facts. And again, they're making decisions in milliseconds. And they're one click away from going to a competitor. So the more you can have an ease of use and transparency of your policies and your practices, I think will aggregate to a higher trust score for your consumers.
Okay. Let's talk about security now. So security, especially some smaller e-commerce companies, they can feel overwhelmed with regulations, both here and overseas, as well as industry best practices. What are some tips you can give there?
So security is, the convergence of security and privacy is getting closer and closer every year because it becomes a privacy issue if you aren't secure. So in both areas of security and privacy, you need to look at international laws and international regulations. And your earlier point, we need to move from a compliance mindset of what do we have to do to a stewardship perspective. Stewardship is, what does a consumer expect? It's what your mother expects. What's the right thing to do? And that's what I tell people when we're sitting down with them. And because that's, at the end of the day, no one wants to hear, well, the legal disclaimer why we're not going to do something for you. In the case of security, it's an evolving landscape. And when we look at site security, there are a lot of things that can impact that. 3 or 4 things very specifically. How secure is the site and the SSL connection, and that's the connection of the credit card transaction. And as a best practice, we say sites should have what's called always-on SSL. In other words, that entire session encrypted. It's privacy enhancing and security enhancing. But as we experienced last month with the Heartbleed incident, it underscores how companies need to be continually looking at how their servers are configured, and if something happens, they need to be right on the spot, and like your data here, on a daily basis, be optimizing it. One of the other challenges in the security side is the marketing side. And again, what sometimes happens is marketing may have a new relationship with a data provider. They may make a tweak to something on the website that could create a security issue. And it's really how security and privacy need to be, it's not a security department issue anymore. It's how we need to look at that holistically, and it's everyone's job. So as a marketer or a merchandiser, you have a relationship, you should be going through that checklist. What are the security implications? What are the privacy implications of partnering with someone else? And that comes back to a more secure website.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, things go wrong sometimes. I mean, there's no security that's perfect, so what should companies do when things do go wrong?
Well, I think one of the facts, there's 2 laws that I have. One is, whether you know or not, you're collecting data that's considered private or personal by some government jurisdiction. And the second thing is, if you collect it, you will lose it. You may lose it from a USB stick, you may lose it from a lost notebook, a rogue employee, or a cyber criminal attacking your site. So you need to be prepared. And so we actually, one of the other things that we have, the Online Trust has, is we publish a data breach readiness guide every year. It's about a 30-page document to walk through executives of what are the fundamental components they need to be thinking about to help develop that plan to be ready.
Okay, so let's look at customer service next. So, as I said, things can go wrong and things do go wrong. When I think of trust, I really trust the companies or the people who act right when things go wrong. So over dinner the other night, we're all talking about these legendary stories of Nordstrom's customer service. So what do you advise to customers, to e-commerce companies when it comes to customer service?
Well, obviously, the Nordstroms coming from the Northwest, we all talk about the folklore, the snow tire scenario and things there. But there's other retailers that do a great job. Costco, another Northwest story. But I think the thing is with customer service is equipping the sales teams, especially when something happens. And so one of the things in our guide is we say, have phone scripts ready. So if you have a breach, you don't want to have to be writing the script and having to brief your employees. Have the web pages staged, ready to be staged and published. So be prepared. Make sure you have capacity. One of the worst things, and good, was Zappos. 24 million records, I think about 18 months ago, were lost. They did not have the capacity. They had to shut down all their phone lines. A great story, a great site, but they weren't prepared. So customer service in the event of a problem is really important. The last thing you want to get is someone say, I don't know. So again, having your salespeople prepared, your customer service, and having ability to escalate is really important.
And have that customer service call center in Seattle, it sounds like.
No, actually, I think, from a security standpoint, you want to have multiple call centers and be following the sun, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And last we talked about reputation. So what I really like what you're doing with the honor roll, like we were talking about it, I think of online trust, security, some of these issues, kind of like the offensive lineman in football. So you can make that block 99 times, but the one time you miss it and Tom Brady gets sacked, everyone notices. And so often we see in the newspapers the major data breaches, it targets all these other ones. But tell us about the companies that are doing it right.
Yeah, I think that's really key. I mean, our goal is to shine the light on those North Stars, the companies that really are investing. And this year, for example, here at the IRCE show here in Chicago, we recognize the top 10 retailers. And these companies, majority of them have actually been in the top 10 last year as well, which is very interesting. Companies that are really doing the right thing. One of them that stands out is American Greetings. Company, they're not from the Northwest, they're from Chicago, actually, I'm sorry, Cleveland. And they, as well as last year, they scored the absolute #1 score of all 500 e-commerce sites. And one of the things that, it's interesting, as I know those people there, they're very committed to collaboration. They work together with others in the industry. They are open about the challenges. And I think that resonates, that mindset of their management, of working together, recognizes we can't solve these problems alone. We're going to do it for ourselves, but we're also judged by others in the industry. So, they actually should be acknowledged not only for that, but how they're helping bring everyone on board. The other one that we recognized yesterday is Twitter. Now, Twitter's not an e-commerce site, but Twitter, we looked at over 800 sites. We looked at 500 e-commerce sites. We looked at the top 100 banks. We looked at the top 50 social sites, top 50 media sites and news sites. So combined, it was about 800 and some sites we looked at. Twitter got the overall score above everyone. And again, very similar to American Greetings, a great deal of advancement of commitment. One of the first to move to always on SSL to force the entire session to be encrypted, and very committed to data sharing as well. So I think there's a common thread of those companies and what they've done, as well as their ongoing due diligence on a daily basis, as your research has shown.
Well, since you mentioned Twitter, I have to ask you, we all know about the breach that happened yesterday. It's a great example, even if you're doing the right stuff, security breaches can happen, but perhaps it's how they reacted to that.
I think it recognizes it can happen to anyone, just like an accident on the road has nothing to do. And again, it wasn't necessarily a breach, a vulnerability that gets discovered. And just because the vulnerability is out there doesn't mean it's been exploited.
Yeah.
But I think what the issue is, how quick does the company respond? And I think that was within hours that was resolved. And I think that's what we need to look at. Not that long ago, Snapchat had just the opposite. They had warnings for months. They failed to recognize it. They dismissed the feedback. And so finally the security research said, we're going public with it. And subsequently there's lawsuits and such going on. And so that's an example of stewardship in the case of Twitter and questionable practices within other companies. And I think Snapchat has learned a lesson, and it's a lesson I think for any company, and it gets back to your reputation and the consumer perceptions. How reputable are you, but how committed are you to solving these problems?
Now, we appreciate Twitter's responsiveness. We're tweeting a lot through hashtag IRCE while we're out here, and our team was emailing us from back home, oh no, this breach is going on. We're like, let us keep tweeting, we'll trust them. So the honor roll report, where can people get it to learn more?
Well, great, the honor roll is available, anyone can download it. Go to our site, which is otalliance.org/honor roll, and we don't require registration. We encourage you to review the report. We'll be having subsequent reports coming out, another one in about 6 weeks, focused on email practices, which is a subset, email marketing practices, which is, I know Sherpa has been spending a lot of time on. And then we're also going to be in the fall doing one on mobile. We're going to be looking at mobile applications. How trustworthy are those apps that you download today? And do those apps match the privacy policies and security of the websites of the same companies? So we're looking forward to that research as well.
Excellent, thank you a lot, Craig.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for working to keep us safe and trustworthy online. And for you, hopefully you got some good tips from Craig. And if you're looking for more tips to improve your e-commerce company, you can visit MarketingSherpa.com/IRCE.